Hey, Bible tea sippers. It's me, Coach K. I'm here with the next episode of the Bible Tea Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Dami Lola.
It's me in the flesh.
And my broski, one of the leaders from Ethos Fam.
Yep.
Marshall Matters.
Marshall Matters. Yo, that's super dope. Marketing it now. Yo, your boy, I'm just a Marsh. You probably know me from the Monday Moments on IG. Your boy just launched a podcast. God is good. You know what I'm saying?
It's lit.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. What's the podcast?
Yo, so basically, like, me and one of my bros a couple years ago, we went to a Christian college, and we both are PKs, and one of the biggest things we were talking about is like, yo, man, like historically and even culturally, I feel like we focus so much on the structure and we emphasize Sunday morning worship, and that's dope. And God is very serious about His praise and worship. Right. But at the end of the day, God is just as much serious as how we live our lives as Christians after the services are over.
That's fire.
That's the name. So yes, sir. That's what it's all about.
What you doing? What y'all doing?
What y'all doing after?
What y'all doing after service?
I love
yes,
it.
sir. Second Sundays, 3 p.m. So look out for your boy.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
So, Dami,
yes, ma'am.
you want to give us our temperature check?
You already know what time it is. So temperature check. We just about to check in, see how things have been since the last time we all linked together. So let's start with our wonderful guest, Marshall. How have things been? This cold, lukewarm, hot. How's your tea been?
Okay, so what I'm saying, so it started, cold, you feel me, but then it made its way to being Luke, and now I'm feeling hot.
Okay, Dr. Luke.
Yes, sir. Dr. Luke is madness. But yes, sir, that was dope.
Well, but what's making it hot right now?
Yo, man, so like it's crazy how the irony how like God will kind of give you a vision, but He won't kind of like paint the whole picture. Right. And sometimes you'll be through a process, and sometimes through that process you'll get discouraged. You know what I'm saying? But then I'm talking like as of like today, something's happened, and it was like, yo, God, you really doing your thing. You're amazing. That's fire. So God is good, man. That's all I could say.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sir. Okay, K. Dean. What's up, Coach?
I mean, since the last time, it's been great, but I would say this week was cold, bruh.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking like ice cold in the freezer, freeze pop cold. It's just like I felt drained. I felt drained all week. The highlight of my week is my baby's birthday.
Yeah, nephew.
He's now 16.
Shout out to the intern.
Oh, your kid got a 16-year-old.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Right? Like that was the highlight of my week. But trying to balance everything is crazy. But I will say this morning coming out, and like the weather's changing, it's getting a little lighter earlier, and I remember I came outside and I literally said, I feel alive. The words just came out my mouth, and I'm like, that's something just to be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like even though like you're struggling, you're trying to balance everything, like I have so much going on. I made the reel to give to you of all the things I'm doing. Yeah. I felt exhausted making it.
It be like that.
I get it.
Because I'm like, I have to add this because I also do like it's so much. Yeah. And it's just supposed to be something happy, highlighting all the things that I do, but like I felt drained because I'm tired.
Well, you killed it, yo. I'm not gonna hold you. It was dope. You did a great job.
So cold, but I'm getting
warming up. Yeah, it's on the stove.
To be alive.
Yeah, it's on the stove. It's just
How about you, Dami?
This week, it actually has been a very good week. So tomorrow is the Chinese New Year. And a lot of my staff at work are Vietnamese, Chinese. Okay. So I learned how to say Happy New Year in both Vietnamese as well as Cantonese.
Ooh, you better go ahead with the bilingual.
Chek Mang Nam Moi.
Oh, you're doing it now.
Oh, okay. Right now. Yeah. That's Vietnamese. And in Cantonese, it is Sun Lin Phai Lok.
Oh, he just showed up.
You better go ahead. Come on, bro.
Duolingo hit me.
Oh, you ready, bro?
Yeah. You better learn that.
Let's go to Chinatown right now. Let's do it. That was crazy.
Lift every voice.
And we're back.
I'm hyped to get into this episode. I'm calling this episode treacherous trickery because like I made that phrase and like I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm really, really hyped to get into it. This is Jacob and Esau and Rachel and Leah's story.
Yeah. Gotta love Leah.
So shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, so boom, what had happened was Abraham's son Isaac had twin boys with his wife Rebecca. Now, these two boys started fighting with each other from the time they were in their mama's womb. Now, Esau was a hairy Chewbacca, woodsy kind of dude. He loved to hunt and be out in the streets all day, while Jacob was a preppy, peaceful mama's boy that loved to whip up meals in the kitchen. Traditionally, Esau came out first, so he was considered the firstborn. Therefore, the birthright, inheritance, and blessing would go to him. But Jacob was with his mama boy self, listened to his mom, and dressed up in fur like Chewbacca, and tricked his dad into giving him Esau's blessing and inheritance. Child, Esau was big mad and was ready to kill Jacob. So Rebecca told him to run, Forrest, run. Jacob runs to his uncle Laban and fell in love with beautiful Rachel. Jacob agreed to work for 7 years in order to marry Rachel. When it was time for the week-long wedding ceremony, lying behind Laban, I think that's how you say his name.
That's how I was.
We're just going to run it.
Laban.
Brought his not-so-pretty daughter Leah, not Laban. Yo. Lying behind Laban brought his not-so-pretty daughter Leah to Jacob's room instead.
My God.
The next morning, Jacob was like, what? I'm sorry, that's the insider. I'm so sorry.
You had to be there.
Shout out to D-Rock.
Yeah.
Laban said,
Oh, this is great. This is great.
Laban said, traditionally, the younger daughter can't get married first, so marry Leah and work 7 more years, then you can marry Rachel. So that's how Jacob found himself in the first ever episode of Sister Wives. And you can sip on this Bible tea for yourself. Find this story in Genesis chapter 25, because ain't no tea like Bible tea, honey.
Yeah, and sip on that.
Yo, shout out to the CKV, Coach K version. You better go ahead.
KV. Coming soon.
Coming soon.
That's wild.
Yo,
I love it.
gave me one, I got you, sis.
So I love talking about how it really connects to culture and what the overarching theme is. So I talk about during the breakdown generational patterns. And what I really want to focus on is what generational patterns do the most damage in families.
That's a heavy one. I mean, so I think first of all, when you think about generational patterns, I think one of the things, it goes to that nature versus nurture kind of debate, right? And so part of it is what those kids end up seeing in that household that they then learn. It's funny because there's this story out there, and people have probably heard it before. It's they're talking to these 2 sons, and it's about their father being a drunk, right? And the one son is a drunk. The one son decided that he wasn't going to drink. And so they asked the one son who was a drunk, he said, why are you a drunk? It's because my dad was a drunk. They asked the son who wasn't a drunk, why are you not a drunk? Because my dad was a drunk, right? It's all about perception. So, I don't know that there's one specific thing that I would say is this pervasive generational curse, but I think it's this bigger understanding that everything is learned, right? From the youngest of it. I feel even before kids know how to actually verbalize things, they're learning things. And I think that even for parents or just people in the lives of young children, I think that's something to always keep in mind because they're continuously just absorbing knowledge, absorbing information. Even the way that people talk to one another around their kids. Their kid might not even understand exactly what's being said, but they're understanding the tone that it's being said in, and just the energy that comes with that. So, yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a phrase that I thought was so stupid, which was parents would say don't do as I do as I say. That don't work.
Yeah.
That's not how it goes.
At all.
That's not how any of this goes.
Right.
I mean, children literally do what they see.
Right.
And so therefore, the generational pattern that constantly gets repeated, I personally think is definitely sibling rivalry, favoritism, and then basically not addressing things.
Right.
From biblical times, this generational pattern of that plagued this family. 100%. And I think we'll probably get into that a little bit more, but I think it's still happening today. And the whole don't do as I do, but do as I say. Like, we even watch our family dynamic.
Right.
We watch how you are with your siblings, how you treat your parents, how you do all these things, and then we end up repeating those things with our own children.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
That's a fact, and it's just dope because like how Dami was kind of talking about environment, because like you're saying, kids are watching, and like if and then that can be how parents deal with each other. That can be just by the neighborhood that they're in, and if they come from a broken home, then they're going to do broken things. This is really what it comes down to. And then also, I like what you were talking about, because I feel like when issues go unresolved, it causes a chain of issue, and it can sometimes just grow into a monstrosity that sometimes is hard to put out. So it's just unfortunate that we are in this time, because even when you think about Bible times, there's a lot of things that we're still dealing with now that was connected to even back then. So yeah, man, it's just a shame.
It's also interesting because I think there's even more to it than it just being learned. I think there's a spirit behind it too.
Ooh,
right?
That's good. Okay.
And I say that because, like, if you look at Abraham, and we talked about it last time, right? Abraham goes to, whatever kingdoms, and he's just like, yo, this is my sister. I don't want no trouble, like, blah, blah, blah. Now, his son wasn't born at the time, but somehow he learned to do the exact same thing with his wife, right? And so it's like, clearly there's more, unless maybe he told it as a story one day and he was like, oh wow, that's genius, I'm gonna use that.
I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna do that too. What works for you will work for me.
So I think maybe there might even be like a spirit, and that's a whole other different conversation, because I think that one of the things that sometimes as Christians we can be a little bit naive to is that there's sometimes spirits behind everything that's happening in the real world, right? And so I think that I think it's just one of those things, especially when I read that story and that specific thing, and it's like, where did you learn that? Like, where did you even learn to call? And that was a lie. Okay, that was not his sister. Okay,
that's the thing that gets repeated. These generational patterns. That's why I don't call them curses. Like, I literally call them patterns, because someone has to break the pattern of doing it.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the whole favoritism thing, or like just the pattern of it, because what struck me was the story with Rebecca and Laban. So this is her brother. But what had happened was, in order for her to marry Isaac, he sent his servant first, being like, look, I gotta find someone from this tribe of people. And went to that house, right? And Laban was like, she need to stay a little while longer. You can't take her right now. And kind of did this trickery of like, she needs to stay longer. But the servant wasn't having it. So then now, years later, your sister's child comes, and now you're like, ooh, now I got it. No, you're going to work longer. You're going to do this longer. So these treacherous trickery, all of these patterns just get repeated from all the lines of the family. And I think it happens in our culture as well, like constantly, the whole favoritism thing. I've seen siblings literally fight in the middle of the street, and you could definitely see like the background of like, it's the parents' fault, constantly pitting them against each other, constantly fighting, and that is just generational patterns that haven't been broken.
But Jacob, what is about give and it will come back to you, pressed down, shaking together, running over? That man, Jacob, he was a funny one, right?
Yes, sir.
And so with all the tricking and all this stuff that he did, that he connived to do with his mother towards Esau, that was a moment, two moments in time, three if you want to count him actually grabbing his heel, right? And then 20 years, basically, he's stuck in a place that he doesn't necessarily want to be. I mean, he's literally married to a lazy-eyed girl, that he was not planning.
I mean, her eyes was weak. I don't know what else.
What is that?
What does it mean?
One eye?
Bro, yeah.
I'm looking at you, okay? Literally.
I don't know what else it means.
Yeah.
Was she weak to the eyes?
Nah, she had panoramic vision.
Panoramic is madness. Nah, she was facially challenged.
But just physically, internally, she was a beautiful person.
I don't know. She did a lot of petty stuff. Naming all them kids petty names had me
that was great.
Listen,
that was great.
The first petty Betty of the Bible.
It was very intelligent.
To your point, though, yes.
Yeah. So I just think when it comes, so in general, right, like with Jacob and his situation with Laban, like I think that was God showing showing Jacob like, yo, you can't live like this.
Right.
Right. It's like the exact same thing that you did to your brother. This is what is happening to you.
To you.
And I'm not saying that God made it happen, but God definitely let it happen.
He let it, yeah.
Right? So he's like, okay, you want to play this game? Cool. Like, get a little bit of taste of your own medicine and see how you feel about that. And clearly he didn't like that because, I mean, the funniest part of that story, and I think when it really gets you to understand how he felt about Leah as opposed to Rachel, was that when he was going back into battle, at least what he thought, with his brother, he literally was like, yo, Leah, go to the front.
Word. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
He said, yo,
he said her first.
You done first, okay? I'm going to hold on to this one. You might be finished. I'm sorry. Yeah,
how you do that? Not even like her, but like her and all y'all kids together.
Yeah, y'all go first.
Just in case my brother murders us, y'all go first.
Exactly. At least I have some chance to run. At least. Golly. Sacrificing your wife like that is
crazy.
But even the fact that, and that's one of the things that's always so interesting, like, I'm sure they had some type of light at the time. So the fact he didn't even realize it was Leah at all is insane.
I don't know how that story goes. I don't know. Was it a tent? Was it dark? Like, do they have a veil? Like, what is happening that you literally laid with her and you didn't know till the next morning? It was like,
his loins
like
were just...
You just...
he was...
I just can't stand the word loins. It just sounds too much.
You got to keep it a bean.
He was ready. He said, yo, tonight's the night. So, hey, bring it.
It's been 7 years coming.
Wait a minute.
Hey, yo. But I'm just saying.
And we're back.
Yo. I can't. But what about the sibling rivalry that constantly, so it happens between Jacob and Esau, but then it also happens between Rachel and Leah as well.
Right.
Like, literally constantly battling for his love.
Right.
Yeah.
How does that get repeated in our culture? The competition, even if it's not with siblings, but just like against each other, like within our culture, like we don't really see each other as brothers. We aren't our brothers' keepers. We aren't our sisters' keepers.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. So it's funny because all three of us have very different sibling dynamics. All of us are siblings, by the way.
Right.
So I'm the oldest of three. You both are the youngest of three.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're the babies.
Yes,
two times.
2 times.
Yeah.
Gross. And and you have both a brother and a sister. You have all sisters. I have all brothers, right? So I think that, like, even just that dynamic of it makes it very different. Like, I know me and my brothers, like, we're all very competitive, right? Like, if it comes to sports, if it comes to music, like, whatever it is, like, we're just very, very, very competitive in that way. But it's always like, well, it's mostly friendly competition, right? It's mostly like good-hearted and good-natured. I do think that one of the things that can happen, and one of the things that does happen in society, is that sometimes it can cause a division, but not so much with. It's not even like a I'm better than you thing, but I think it oftentimes comes from the parents and how they feel that the parents are viewing them.
So
right?
subconscious.
Exactly. Like almost like a subconscious, like, oh, that's there. Because my brother said, we know he's like your favorite.
Yeah, the golden child.
I am. But they shouldn't know that, right? Right. They shouldn't feel that way. And I think that I think that can sometimes make people act out because they're trying to get the parents' attention, whether it be for good reasons or bad ones. They just want that feeling and want that sense of belonging. So, yeah.
Before I say what my sibling dynamic is, what is your sibling dynamic?
So it's just a little different because it's funny. All of my siblings look like my father. And my mother, she went to glory when we were super, super young. So I'm the only one that looks like my mom. So it was a very interesting dynamic because even though I didn't look like my father, I was very rebellious like my father, and I was a risk taker like my father, as opposed to the rest of my family was very, very comfortable with who they are. So in that aspect, I will say that when you are in a situation when you're willing to step out, take risks, sometimes, things can happen where it's more so jealousy. It's, you can definitely, sometimes you will be in a situation where you will feel less than, and sometimes in that situation, when you're trying to step out on faith and trying to do the right thing, you'll have all these voices and these people's on the outside trying to, defame him or belittle as if you can't advance to the next stage, So a lot of those things, in my opinion, it does connect it to rivalry. And then don't let the parent love you more or treat you different than anybody else. Right. And that's a whole different situation altogether. So, right. But I will say, even growing up in it, I was able to utilize it because through that I was able to see Jesus through that whole thing, regardless of the circumstances through it, because regardless of how I felt about the environment I was growing up in, I found a person that was able to love me more than anyone can here. So I have to say, like, even now, I look at the stuff and I just laugh it off, I just laugh it off. It doesn't even bother me because it equips me, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, but yeah.
That's hard.
That's money. Yeah.
The only thing I was going to say about what you said that I think is interesting and something that I think kids don't always understand. Because my mom is like, we always have this conversation, especially when they're like, oh, he's your favorite. My mom is like, no, like I treat you guys the way you need to be treated to grow you into the person. So sometimes because I'm just I've always been a very independent person. So I don't ever necessarily need that hand of like guidance. And so my brothers might perceive that as, me being the golden child or whatever, but she's just allowing me to grow in my independence. Yeah, right. Where they might need a little bit more hand holding in certain areas. And that's also totally fine, right? That's just about their evolution, about their how they become the person that at least in her mind that they can become, like their potential. Right. So that's just something interesting that I kind of thought about, that parents will treat children differently, but it's not because of their love is different, but it's because children require different things.
Yeah, that's very fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah. That response was very interesting because when you just said, no, I don't, no, he isn't my favorite, I just love you each differently, or I parent differently. The response that I got constantly was, I love y'all equally the same. Right. And I think when it comes to parenting, my parents were very strategic with no favoritism. Not when I'm talking about, it was a culture shock to move to Philly, and I'm trying to make female friends, and I'm calling people sisters, and they are side-eyeing me because the word sister is a trigger word for them. Wow. But for me, I wasn't even allowed to say shut up to my sister. I wasn't allowed to say the word stupid. Yeah. Like, you do not treat your sister that way. That's how my household was. Like, this is like, and me and my sister, our sisterhood is very tight. So like, I feel like what is fostered in the home, and I'm not saying anything about y'all's or like how your parenting was, but literally, even when I'm having women empowerment things, there's this new things that like, oh, women empowerment is just mean girls with cliques. And I'm like, dag, even
that's crazy.
Even a niche that I am in, I have to fight against this negative connotation of the word sisterhood. And it all goes down to how people were raised, how that sibling rivalry happens, how unforgiveness happens, which is the next level where we go to in this story. And I was just raised very differently, and I take that with me constantly. It wasn't allowed, and I literally see favoritism completely destroy families, and I do think it comes from the parents. Yeah, right. And what they set as guidelines in the household. I don't know. Yeah. What happened to the
God just spoke.
Guys, that was crazy.
So I do want to talk about forgiveness because there is something so powerful that I think people completely pass over in this story. And it's when Esau is getting his blessing, or whatever you can call that, or whatever it was.
The leftovers.
Literally the leftovers of it, bruh.
The stuffing.
Yo, the carcass.
Yeah, you want some cranberry sauce?
Listen.
Nah, we ain't got no more turkey left. Yeah,
ain't no turkey. Ain't no more mashed potatoes.
Exactly what was said was like, you will be able to get your blessing when you are able to forgive and take off the yoke of your brother.
Wow.
That, John, hit me so hard because I think so many times, we are waiting for God to forgive us and to bless us, I should say, but there's still unforgiveness in our heart. Right. There are still things that's happening that we have not been able to let go of in our families. That is we literally talked about that for morning devotion today. Wow. one of the scariest things that can happen is that you are under the illusion that you are free, but you are still in slavery. And unforgiveness literally would keep you bound. It keeps you bound to anger, resentment, bitterness.
Right.
And you need to be free of that, and you need to be free of the yoke of slavery.
Right.
For sure.
I think it's just so interesting how, like, when you're also dealing with that, like, sometimes you could be so deep in your feelings, you won't even realize that, like, you're in a sea of unforgiveness or you can't even move on, and you will literally convince yourself to the point where it's just like, no, like, I'm over it, and then delusions will come through, and then all these things that you're trying to do, God will shut down time and time again.
Right.
And then it's just like, yo, man, you're just better off just releasing it, bro, because it's just like, how much longer you gonna keep staying in this wilderness? Like, how much longer are you gonna how many more lessons do you really need, you know? And it's just interesting when I really think about it, like, you know what I'm saying? What's it going to take? You feel me? Like, over time.
Yeah, and it goes back to something you said earlier, because I think that people think that they're over it.
Right.
But what they really don't do is they don't deal with it.
Right.
Right? Sweeping it under the rug doesn't mean that it goes away. It's still an elephant, right? Like, it's still the elephant in the room, whether or not you're looking at it or not. And until you actually deal with that elephant and you get it out of your house, it's always going to be there, right? So I think that's, the story of Esau by itself is such a beautiful thing, because at no point did he have a conversation with his brother to say, I forgive you, before he met him, right? It wasn't like, yo, why did you do what you explained it? Like, it literally was, I forgave you before you even deserved it. Right. And that is just such a beautiful like thought that regardless of everything that Jacob did to Esau purposefully, right? This is not even an accident. This is, I want what you got, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it from you. Regardless of all of that, regardless of whatever Jacob's mindset would have been when he approached him, regardless of any of that, Esau was like, you know what? It's water under the bridge. Like, we're good. And even when I think about that, because one of the things that I'm being very vigilant about this year is how every story relates back to our relationship with God. And so it's the exact same thing that God, regardless of how many times we mess up, we're always the prodigal son, but he's always that father that's waiting for us to turn around and come back to him. And he'll have his best ring, his cloak, all of that. And so it's just so amazing that God displays in just a small part of the story the amount of forgiveness that we as humans can have for each other. This is not yes, it's supernatural because it takes the Holy Spirit, but this is not God saying like, oh, only angel. No, this is a human who was done wrong by his brother time and time again, wanted to kill him, had nothing left from his family, and even still was like, you know what? It's cool. Like, we're family. I'm good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Straight murder him. Something dropped in my spirit when you say that. It was
crazy. Wasted. That was crazy.
He was mad. He was big mad, bro.
Crazy.
But because we know what his blessing was, and it was like, you won't get blessed until you forgive your brother and like get out of his chokehold, the yoke of it. Because when he finally met up with him, he already had his own riches.
Yep.
We know that he forgave him way before. And I think it's really important for us to pick that up, because I think we wait for that moment of forgiveness when that person is held accountable. Like, we want accountability so bad that we are holding on to our forgiveness of it until they are held accountable.
That is so awesome. Not to cut you off.
No.
Just the concept of forgiving someone without ever hearing an I'm sorry. That is just, first of all, what type of life, how close are you to Jesus to be there?
Your name is Holy Spirit.
Bro, like, your name is Holy Spirit. Boo this man. No, but like, it's so awesome, like how awesome God is and how God really works in his people, where he can grow you to the point and you can really like have his attributes. Because when you think about Jesus, like him dying on the cross for our sins, and even in that aspect, like he died for sins even of the future, things we didn't even do. And it's just like, yo, like, to be able to forgive someone without them, you know, having any sense of, I guess, accountability. Yo, man, more power to you, Esau, bro. You know what I'm saying? I ain't there yet, but yeah, I'm getting there, striving.
I'm trying.
I'm trying.
Because let me tell you, I blow my horn at anybody who do me wrong. I let you know what happened. I would say I'm working on it, but I
hope it's not one of those high pitch honks, because I'm just saying right now, bro, it doesn't have the same effect.
Not in my Mustang. You know, it's a good hefty.
It's crazy.
I think what I really want to touch on before we close out is, okay, so then what is the life lesson that it has for us from this story? Like, what do we learn? How can we apply it to our life? How does it show God to us?
I mean, I kind of like said it, but I can expand on it. Really, like, God has a process to his promise. And
excuse me,
you're a preacher for real. Okay,
minister.
Continue.
No, it's like I feel like like sometimes when I think about when I was a kid, and like I know we were on our like road trips, we were on our way somewhere, and I would ask the question, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then Dad would be like, oh, we'll get there. Don't worry about it. You know, stop asking so many questions. And then like I'm thinking about it like even now, and it's like sometimes like even if we know, if a God shows us where we're going to end up, he can't expose his full plan, because when he exposes his plan, we'll try to get in our way and his way.
Yeah.
And honestly, even God's promises, they're not based upon our preferences. So there's sometimes there's going to be seasons where things are going to happen that we're not going to like. And it's just like, even in that, I'm starting to learn that I just sometimes let God's process be his process. And, and I think that also plays into what Dami was saying in the last episode is, what is it going to take for you to really fully trust God? Really trust and believe that he knows what he's doing. One more thing, and then I'm done. It's like also like...
Don't be done.
You can keep talking.
The other thing, like... when you think about like the stumbling blocks through the process, right? Like, do you think God is surprised by the stuff that comes up? You know, like, do you think he didn't know that these things were going to happen? And like, even like his permissive will, how he allows us to do our own thing. God is just sitting back like, yo, I already knew this was all going to happen.
Right.
Consider it joy.
That part. But my process is going to be my process, and my promise will come when it says it will. So yeah, man.
No, that's fire.
Very much so.
And even so, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what you're saying, because the thing that really hit me, because it's funny, because I had to stop before I read this, and then it hit me again because of the way it played in, was if we were Jesus Christ, how would we have come? Right? We would not have come in homeless. Right. In a manger.
There was no room.
Yeah.
There was no room.
Yeah, exactly. Right next to some lamb.
Bro.
And
I gotta have entrance music.
Come on, man. What?
Like it's a wrestling match.
Yo, Michael, play the trumpet. Like, straight like that.
Word.
We come in gang deep.
Word. Okay? Let's do it.
So even just not only the way he came, but then who he came through. So he's coming through not Jacob's favorite wife. He's coming through the other one. The one he was like, yo, get rid of her. Yeah. Like, that's who he said, you know what, I want to go through her. Then it's her fourth son. Yes, sir. Not 1, 2, or 3. Judah, who she comes through. Yeah. And then you'll just look at who else Jesus chose, because he knew this before, who he chose to be a part of his family. Right. You have prostitutes.
Yeah. Right. They was hoeing.
Right.
You've got killers, murder. Anybody you could think of was a part of that line.
Squared.
Because they wasn't just hoeing.
It wasn't just hoeing.
It was to the second power.
It was to the second power.
Oh, so you really think about who he would chose.
Yes. Right.
And then, so that's who he chose to be born through.
Right.
But then you look who he chose to die for.
Right. Oh. Right.
He over here preaching.
No, but it's
me. You better go.
You. And so it's like, anybody who's watching this and you don't feel like you are good enough for Christ. Right. You feel like you are too far away to come back. Right. You feel like you've done just too much and there's no way that he could forgive you. He already forgave you. Right. And that's the beauty of this text, is because the same way that Esau forgave Jacob, even more than that. Before Jesus even knew, or before you knew that you were going to sin, he knew it, and he still died for you. Right. So that's like the beauty in the walk that we should have as Christians on this earth, is just walking in knowledge that Jesus died for us before we even sinned. Right. Knowing that we were going to sin.
Right.
I don't even know how to. I don't even know how to come back after that. That was so deep.
No, it's dope though.
It was so good.
It's and it's like, I'm sorry, just because he
on.
started something because he died. Okay, then for what we are doing and what we will do. And still, even in that, he who did no sin became all those sins.
All of them.
What type of love is that?
Yeah.
So even in that, I feel, I don't want to say obligated, but I feel that he deserves for me to trust him.
Absolutely.
All the way. There's nothing that you can tell me. Let me tell you something. I love all you guys. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart, but I don't know if I could do it for y'all. I don't know if I could do
I
it.
know I can. I want you to hear me. It ain't happening.
Some of y'all that I would be like, nah,
Listen.
they can go.
Listen, right.
Somebody's got
I can nominate to someone. Like, I'm just saying.
Is there one?
Is there one?
There's
It's wild. No, for real. No, for real. Like, it's just so like who wouldn't serve a God like that? Who wouldn't follow a Jesus that loves us that much?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the importance, though, because then we're working on the word forgiveness.
Right.
And then of faith, because we're talking about trust, but like your faith in it. I can't help but like constantly see that like this blessing was given to Abraham and he passed it down, but it wasn't until the children experienced God for themselves.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter how many times Daddy said, you know, all of these things. When God introduced himself, I am the God of your father, of your grandfather, of this. When they got their own experience, that's when their life changed. And I can't help but feel like the biggest lesson for me being a rebel, being the one that took forever.
Talk, ma'am.
Forever to do anything. I feel like I took the long way. I feel like I took Jacob's way through everything in my life, right?
Yeah, we're all there.
Like learning Jesus for myself is when my life changed.
Yes, sir.
And we just can't go based off of how our family did church, how they did church and not relationship with Jesus. Like it has to be for ourselves. That was the biggest lesson for me. Like, and that's how it will always be. And then now that I have a child, like making sure that pattern doesn't get repeated of you see mommy doing all these things, Bible tea, queendom, all these things, but you have to learn him for yourself.
Right.
Like, you got to learn Jesus for yourself. And this is why I'm constantly saying, keep sipping with us. Keep read the Bible for yourself. Don't even take my word for it. Like you got to be able to build that relationship for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the biggest lesson.
I love it.
Well, I mean, this one was good.
This one was dope.
This one was really great. Thank you for being with us.
Yo, listen, thanks for asking, guys. This is super dope.
He got his hairline done.
Yo, bro, you see me, right?
Oh, man.
Me and Dami got these leather pants on, bro. This was
I know not hot under the
I changed and he didn't know that.
With that being said, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you are catching up on all the episodes of the Bible Tea Cup podcast. And as always, keep sipping with me.
Yep.
Out of my fake cup.